left-wing lunatics. They attacked police. They shouted Nazi slogans. They defaced a statue of George Washington. They literally pulled down American flags from government buildings, hoisted up Palestinian flags. These protesters were supported and egged on by America's largest labor unions. Not just supported, they were the prime sponsors. Hey everybody, as always, I hope that you're having a great week. I'm here with an update on what has happened in Washington, D.C. this week. So let's get started with all of it. This week, the U.S. House of Representatives, they passed one of my bills, very small bill, but very important bill to the people of our community. It's to rename the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center after a friend, a veteran, a fighter for all of our service members from his whole life. And I'm going to share a little bit about his life in a moment, but for his whole life, just an absolute fighter. For our veterans, Thomas H. Cory. Now, Thomas H. Cory was a brave American warrior. He served in the United States Army as an infantryman during the Vietnam War. During the Tet Offensive, Mr. Cory was shot in the neck by the enemy, and he was left permanently paralyzed. Mr. Cory's injury was life-changing, but it was not life-defining, and that's one of the most important things we can say about him. Like any strong warrior, Mr. Cory decided that his service would not end just because of his discharge from the Army, just because of that very serious injury. Instead, he became an advocate for his fellow veterans. He founded the Palm Beach County chapter of Vietnam Veterans of America and rose to become the president of the national organization in 2003. Mr. Cory spent 15 years working as an ombudsman at the West Palm Beach VA, ensuring that his fellow veterans got the care that they earned, that they deserve day in, day out. I'm proud to have led the Florida delegation in renaming the VA Medical Center after him, and everybody came together to make sure that this got done in a pretty short amount of time. And it wasn't just the representatives across Florida. It was Senator Marco Rubio, it was Senator Rick Scott, it was people across the community, our veterans organizations, everybody working on this to reach out to representatives, senators, people to get them involved. True community effort. Just want to thank everybody that was involved in getting this across the finish line. Very important for our community. I want to switch gears. I want to talk about Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's address to Congress. His speech was nonpartisan, called for Democrats and Republicans to support Israel in its fight against the terrorists that are holding 8 Americans hostage in Gaza as we speak. And while speaking inside the U.S. Capitol, the Prime Minister, he showed himself to be a statesman on par with Winston Churchill. And unfortunately, outside the U.S. Capitol, left-wing lunatics, they attacked police, they shouted Nazi slogans, they defaced a statue of George Washington. When I say defaced, they spray painted all over things, they wrote Hamas on things, they wrote war cries on things, you name it. They burned American flags. These weren't American flags that they bought with their own dollars and brought in and said, hey, this is, going to be some speech that we make or something. They literally pulled down American flags from government buildings, broke the locks on these flags that hold the chains and the ropes that they're held up with, broke them so that they could pull them down, and then literally hoisted up Palestinian flags. These protesters were supported and egged on by America's largest labor unions. Not just supported, they were the prime sponsors. United Auto Workers, prime sponsor. American Postal Workers Union, prime sponsor. National Education Association, prime sponsor, which is the biggest teachers union in the country, prime sponsors to this flag-burning American statue and monument defacing rally. That's what they were the prime sponsor for. These unions are the foot soldiers of the Democrat Party. You don't have to take my word for it. You can go on and look at their Twitters and their Facebooks and their Instagrams, and you can see their support for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. They helped organize the protests that turned violent, and come September, they're going to be knocking on your door asking for your vote for Kamala Harris. Maybe that's why Kamala Harris was missing in action during these protests. She was missing in action instead of presiding over a joint session of Congress, as is her job as vice president. Kamala was meeting with a sorority group in Indianapolis instead. By being absent, Kamala Harris gave moral aid and comfort to the people burning American flags, attacking police, shouting anti-Semitic slogans outside of our nation's capital, just like her labor union allies provided the protesters with material, with aid, with comfort to get all that done. This should outrage every single American. I'm going to keep fighting to expose this. Speaking of giving aid and comfort to the enemy, I want to switch gears a little bit more. The mainstream media. They want you to forget that Kamala Harris was appointed by Joe Biden to be the border czar. That's literally what she was appointed to do. Don't just hear it from me. Hear it directly from him.
I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border.
Every media outlet admitted she was the border czar until it was no longer convenient for them politically. But the American people know that everything Kamala Harris touches turns to crap. Kind of like the Greek mythological king god Midas. They said everything that he touched turned to gold. It's kind of the opposite of that. Everything she touches turns to crap. Just like when she went up to the podium in Guatemala and told illegal aliens, do not come to America. The very next month, and for all of the months following, the number of migrants skyrocketed to historic levels. Yet Democrats are trying to conceal her record, claiming that any criticism is because Republicans are scared of her. Republicans are just being honest about what her work has actually been. The reality is that people should be scared of Kamala Harris, what she's going to do to America. In the Senate, she was the most liberal member of the Senate, even to the left of an avowed socialist like Bernie Sanders. She wants to abolish private health insurance, wants to allow murderers and rapists to vote from behind bars. Kamala Harris has always been weak on law and order. When she was the Attorney General in California, the crime went up 10 percentage points, reaching a decade high. But we won't let congressional Democrats cover up for Kamala. That's why House voted this week to condemn Kamala Harris for her horrendous failure as Joe Biden's border czar. I want to talk about one other thing. This week, the House voted unanimously to create a bipartisan. This is truthfully one of the most bipartisan things I've seen take place, and this does affect both Republicans and Democrats. It affects President Donald Trump. It affects President Joe Biden, candidates across the board. It's to create a bipartisan task force to investigate the assassination attempt on President Donald Trump. Now, we've already seen the head of the Secret Service, Kimberly Cheadle, resign. She resigned over the incident, but this is only the tip of the iceberg. Every day, more and more facts are exposed that shows the Secret Service has engaged in some really unbelievable conduct. And every day, we're left with more and more questions than we are answers to the questions that we've already had. From allowing the shooter to fly a drone over the rally venue 2 hours before President Trump spoke, to him being able to shoot 8 bullets before being taken down, the facts of this assassination attempt are insane, and it is only by an act of God that President Trump is here. I am glad to see the Secret Service director has resigned, but we need more accountability. The Secret Service should be the gold standard for dignitary protection. I hope that this new task force will help restore it to that position. I've worked extensively with the Secret Service when I was a bomb tech in the U.S. Army. It is a daily, weekly, monthly occurrence that bomb technicians from all branches of the military augment the Secret Service doing the explosive advance work, finding or functioning anything that may be there in terms of explosives. Could be in a computer monitor, could be underneath a table, underneath a desk, in a chair in an audience, you name it, but we do that level of work week in, week out, just checking to make sure that the area that the president is going to be in or their area of travel or other things is clear of explosives hazards. So it is something that I've certainly paid attention to during my years. I just want to say this. As always, it is an honor to serve you. It is an honor to represent you. I hope that you all have a great weekend. I look forward to seeing you all around town. You all take care. Hey everyone, thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed the video, please click like and subscribe. I will be back on YouTube with more exclusive content, so stay tuned.